to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. I have a very, very, very good Power Talk Friday topic for you. And I know that when you saw the title of the show, you thought, I don't need to know about that. But I'm telling you, you do need to know about it. It's very, very important. And the thing is, I don't lead you down the wrong path. So today we are going to talk about exit strategies. Exit strategies means what happens when you get to the point in your business career that you wonder, do you have a viable business to sell? How do you sell it? Why should you sell it? And how do you know what it's worth? So you might be in business 3 years and you're thinking, yep, next, I don't need to know this. Please don't do that. Please listen to this show, because everything you do in your business, you're building and setting yourself up for success at every stage. And just like you can't get to the end of your life and have eaten Twinkies and Twix bars your entire life and then be upset at 75 years old that you're unhealthy. Right? Like, that's crazy. You can't undo all that. So that's why I want you, whether you are 25 years in business and sort of yes, ma'am, I want some exit strategy conversation, or you're 3 years in business, you can't ignore it. And the thing is, me, I am at WindowWorks, myself, my husband, and our cousin Bill, we're 37 years and we are constantly having conversations about exit strategy. And of course, you all know my cousin Eileen Hahn, and she's been working with us on this. And what I've learned with working with Eileen on this is that people who are experts in this blow your mind just as much as you blow somebody's mind when they're like, I never thought of putting the stove there, or I never thought of putting the door there. And that's the experience that I've been having the last 3 years that we've been working with Eileen. And so when Ashley's team reached out to me, I was like, yes, ma'am, I'll have some of that. So today I have Ashley Micciche with me, and she is the CEO of True North Retirement Advisors, which is an independent financial advisory firm which manages $230 million in client assets. She's located just outside of Portland, Oregon. So big shout out to all my IDS friends in Portland, Oregon, by the way. And Ashley started her career as a financial advisor in 2007 after graduating magna cum laude. Smart lady. We get a hashtag smart lady there before we even start, with a bachelor of science degree in business finance from Portland State University. Okay. Now, her early career, she developed an expertise in 401k consulting for small businesses. So we'll probably get into a little bit about that too, which is important for us as small business owners to understand. But today, okay, we're going to talk about how Ashley specializes in designing, building, and implementing business exit plans so that she helps the business owner clients that she works with secure their final and most important business decision, which is the exit from their business. She has a personal mission that she wants to transition 300 small business owners successfully into retirement in 10 years. I love a lady that has her eye on the prize, okay? Not just randomly getting up every morning. She knows exactly what she wants to accomplish. So we're so lucky to have you with us today, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us on A Well-Designed Business.
Thank you, Luann. I'm very excited to be here.
Me too. There's certain topics that I love, and I think if people can hear the ones that I like better than the others. So.
Well, I love it that you get it because it is very important. And So I'm excited about our talk today.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, you know what? And I speak from experience in what I was saying in the introduction there is it's not lost on me at, 3 or 5 or 10 years in business. You feel like it's a long way away. And that's, of course, if you have the dream to have a business for 25 or 30 or 40 years. But there are people, I didn't even address the group of designers out there that might really feel like I want to build this beast up for 10 years and then unload it, right? We don't have to do something for 40 years before we unload and we sell it to somebody else. But the idea is, I think that it mostly occurs to us when we are at this season. I always say to everybody, I'm in the fall, Ashley. I'm not in the winter. Okay. But the thing is that I remember we had a very real conversation with our CPA about 7 years ago. Vin was just past 65 or maybe just before. I'm so horrible with math. It's impossible for me to do it in my head, but it was around 65 years old he was, right? And of course, he was nowhere near ready to retire at that point. But many of his friends, his best friends, were all retiring one after another. And they're calling them from the golf course. And they're calling them from, Sunday fun day. It's on Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? And we sat down with our CPA and we were like, what would happen if we wanted to sell this business? And because at that point, it was... Our business at WindowWorks is systemized, and it was something that was sellable. But the part that wasn't systemized at that point was that Vin and I were the primary salespeople. We were doing at that point about $2 million in gross sales, and we were each doing about $1 million of it. We'd have a race to the death every year, December 31st, who beat the other one by 25 cents. But real stories. And the other one got bragging rights forever. Okay, but the thing was that as much as the business itself, Ashley, was systemized, there was no one else. It would be like having the primary designer and no one else knowing how to design. And so,
Right.
and so we sat down with him and he explained to us that we could sell it. We could just sell it outright. But possibly the person that we would sell it to would probably not come up with the cash that was necessary for us to then, at him at 65 and me at 50 at that point, live through retirement on it. And he said, and more likely the scenario was going to be that they would give us a smaller amount and then give us payments throughout the year. And I'm going to tell you, at 50 years old, with the type of energy and love for business that I had, I thought, there's no way I want to be on a budget when I'm not working. Like I'd rather work all day than be on a budget and have nothing to do, right? And so we ultimately decided, he said, look, your better plan is to build out your team. Build out the team, build out the people under you, give them real positions of authority, give them real positions of accountability, have them replace you as the sales drivers, and then grow an exit strategy with them. And so that's why I'm so committed to this, because now and he goes, and then when you ultimately sell the business, he goes, what if they do give you $100,000 a year to be in retirement? Yeah, I'll take that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very dear to me. It's very real to me is what I mean to say. And I do know that I counsel my buddies to really get their business systems down pat so that they're in a position to have the conversations with people like yourself on what the next steps are. So that's my big intro for why I feel this is important no matter what stage of business you are in. But you start us off. You take us down to what you know as the expert that we need to think about and look at, Ashley.
Well, Luann, I think I just want to start by dovetailing off of what you said, because, even though you said you systemize the processes, what you were basically talking about is a business that revolved around you and your husband.
Right.
And that's what, even if people who have a team, the business still revolves around them. They're the rainmaker. They're the ones who are primarily responsible for bringing in the business, or they have the key relationships with the customers or the vendors. And so when the business revolves around you, the business value plummets. And
Mm,
so that's such a huge takeaway for most business owners to realize, because if they go down the path of preparing for their exit like they're going to exit, what ends up happening is they put systems in place, they bring in other people to manage it, and they might develop this well-oiled machine, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, gosh, it just runs perfectly fine without me. I can take, 3 months off in the summer if I want to play golf, or spend, 2 months in China or something like that. And the business will not just survive, but it will thrive. And
exactly.
so I find that even if someone isn't sure about when or how they want to exit, acting as if you are going to exit and doing the things necessary to exit can be a total game changer, because all of a sudden you have this time flexibility, because you're not the one putting out all the fires, and the business doesn't completely revolve around you. So that takes time to do if you're going to do it effectively. And at the end of that, you may realize you want to exit, or you may realize that, like, hey,
This is fine.
I love this. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
No, that's the
So
truth. And we took his advice very seriously. And now we have 3 really strong salespeople working with us that this year is the first year we're going to make that turnover where the 3 of them will equal the sales that Vin and I have previously been responsible for, and everything that we do is the gravy on top of it. And so it's really an exciting thing. And of course, I left my partner Bill out, who's our installer. We had to address that same scenario there too, because as everybody knows, he is I fully believe he is the most talented installer on the entire planet for window treatments, but we needed to duplicate him as well. And of course, we have a team of 5 other installers behind him. And from that point, 5-6 years ago, we intentionally started to teach, particularly Carlos, but Jim as well, the things that at that point to that point only Billy knew how to do. And we were completely capable, and not capable, we were completely comfortable with, oh, okay, that's a only Billy install, that's an only Billy install. And we were like, yes, it cannot be an only Billy install. And so, and the thing about it is, Ashley, I know you know this from coaching your clients, is you take a step back in income when you do this, because now Carlos, who previously was completely productive for a 40-hour week, driving his own installs, bringing in the own receipts from those installs, now we make a conscious effort, however many days a week or a month, nope, have Carlos be with Billy today. Just learning that extra mastery level of installation that is required at the level that we do custom window treatments for our designer clients. And so that's like, hey, we've got 2 guys doing the job of 1 guy today, and that's on the business that's cost us money, but it's the investment in our business future, right?
exactly. And it's just taking the long view, because if you want or need to get value out of your business and you need to sell it at some point, you have to do it at some point anyways.
Right.
So
Well, and
might
that
as
is the
well.
other point, because at some point, if we waited until Billy was, 65 himself, by then he might not be nearly as capable of imparting the information, nearly as adept at imparting the information, not working as many days to impart the information. But when we start, when he's 50 years old, to train his replacement, and we know that that replacement is going to have the value of 15 to 20 years of working with him, it's a true high-level mastery apprentice experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So this is why I love this. And this is why I'm so passionate about sharing it because I have my baby designers out there, Ashley. I have my baby designers out there that are in business 2, 3, 5 years. And some of them are going to go, oh, I have to think about this. Like you said, I have to think about my business, what it is like down the road and how does it work. And so I'm very excited to do this. So tell us about, where do we start? What are some of the things that you want to impart on them?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say that it's incredibly important to start thinking about this in the early stages, long before you want to exit, because if you talk to a lot of people who have been in business for a long time and they're really close to retirement, a lot of them are burned out. And so you can't wait until you're ready to be done and ready to exit. Certain things certain things that you do to ensure a successful exit can take time, just like you were talking about. It can take years to train your replacement and make sure that the business can survive without you. And if you're going to transition that business, it doesn't matter if it's to that key person or those key people internally or a third party sale. You have to be able to replace yourself. And that's probably one of the biggest values of drivers of value that business owners ignore, is that they don't realize the importance of replacing themselves. So that's kind of where I would start, is understanding what the value of your business is and what are the things that are going to drive the value of the business. And that's really where we start with clients. So if you look at, there's plenty of things that entrepreneurs, business owners can do as they begin to think about their exit, as they go down this path. And the place that we always start with our clients is on valuing their business. Too many entrepreneurs, I find, rely on rules of thumb. They know some other designer or some other firm that's similar to them that sold for a certain amount, and so they kind of base their value on that. But every business is unique, and each industry does have its own kind of value metrics that drive value. But if you start with an inaccurate estimate of value and you go down this path of exiting your business, you're going to likely make a lot of poor decisions along the way. So we have to know what we're starting with, and valuing your business. It's like putting in the current location on the GPS. If I want turn by turn directions to get, across town, I have to tell the GPS where I'm at now. And that's what valuing your business will do. So it's kind of like the beginning of the roadmap.
And I don't know how complicated it is. Are there certain things that you could, I know that you have this tool that we may as well tell them now. You have a valuation tool and checklist that the designers can get, and we'll put in the show notes, how to get it. And we'll mention it again later when they're absolutely convinced that they need it, right? Because right now they're like, I'm not sure yet, right? We got to give them a little bit more. But my question is, in that valuation checklist, are there a couple of things that are worth us discussing now that we can sort of cover, like the types of things that are the markers for evaluating our businesses, Ashley?
Yeah, and actually, before I get into that, I want to dispel a misconception that I think is in the back of the minds of a lot of your listeners, which may be, oh, if I'm going to value my business, I'm going to have to pay someone $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000. It's going to take 6 weeks. They're going to make me pour through and gather all my financial data, and that's kind of messy. And I just, it's too much of a barrier just to figure out what their business is worth. So most business owners, they don't do it. But I want to tell you that you can, with this tool, you can, this afternoon, you can gather 8 pieces of information that's very high level. It's things like revenue, pre-tax income, how much you pay yourself, and you can go and value your business today, and it takes 5 minutes once you gather that data. So it's the one thing that you can do that will have the biggest impact on just helping you get unstuck and making progress on your exit. So that's the key, is just understanding that it doesn't have to be this long drawn out process. It doesn't have to cost $10,000. I actually pay for this software tool every single month, and I pay a lot of money for it, and I don't charge clients for it because I find that it's the number one thing that sort of unleashes everything else. And if they just do this, then they're going to make some more progress because now they're motivated. If you find out that your business is worth $1 million, but you need it to be worth $2 million in order to exit, that's totally fine. But at least we know what that gap is. And then that informs us how we can make progress on closing that gap. So that is just so key, and I really want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process, and it can be quick and easy, and you can get a really strong estimate of value because the tool that we use, there are millions of businesses across the country that are in this database.
Oh, okay. So all right. So it's an algorithm based on all the information going in, and it probably does, to your point a little bit earlier, includes the industry that you're in and so forth.
Exactly. And new valuations, people all across the country who kind of do what I do use this tool. And make it available to their clients. And so businesses, as we speak, there's businesses putting their data. And so every time someone goes in and does a valuation, it just improves the numbers because
Mm.
there's more comparative data. So it's very robust, it's very powerful, and it's just a huge help in helping business owners get unstuck.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so and that is part of your thing. You have three universal steps to get unstuck. So one of them is doing this evaluation of your business. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the first step.
Okay.
And and I find that it doesn't really matter if your business is worth 100,000, a million, 100 million, whatever that number is. These three steps are universal. And then the exit path kind of diverges after that. So it's valuing your business and then establishing your timeline and your goals and what's important to you. These are things that are really going to drive the decisions that you're going to make about who you're going to sell to, who that ideal successor is. Do you need your business to sell? So these are things that a lot of business owners they've never asked themselves. No one has ever asked them. And so they haven't really spent much time thinking about it, but that really drives the timeline and what you do. And then the third step is discovering your gap, which I kind of touched on already. You know what your business is worth. When you combine that with your other financial resources, your other sources of income, is that going to be enough? Or do we need to grow the value of the business? What do we need to do to close that gap? It's okay if there's a gap. We just have to know what that gap is. And the only way you're going to know what that gap is if you do the work on the front end to value your business, which takes you like 5 minutes. So it's not
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm.
it's not that hard.
Right. Well, and that's sort of, to what I was saying a few moments ago, where we were about 6 or 7 years ago. It was the valuation of the business combined with the property that it's housed in that we own. Together, the two of them could have possibly been enough for the three of us to get out of it what we needed in order to go off and be retired at that stage. But it would have depended on A, getting full amount on that, and B, getting it in full, not in a payment plan. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so that's very important in that step, is that gap. And so that's why we were like, okay, dig in, build it out, leverage it out, and, bring more people and make them more accountable and make them more productive and help them to be more productive, help them to make more money, start to flip the roles so that instead of, because what happens is there's a difference between being a 71-year-old and a 56-year-old business owner where we're ringing the doorbell every day going, "Hi, I'm Luann from WindowWorks. You wanted some window treatments?" Like, there's a whole big difference between that than, "Oh, I've got three salespeople that are saying, 'Hi, I'm Kim from WindowWorks. I'm JC from WindowWorks.'" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're managing and having the weekly meetings with them and doing the strategy with them and deciding the advertising budget. And, maybe I'm going out 5 times a month going, "Hi, I'm Luann from WindowWorks." You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a completely different thing. And I have a lot more gas. I could do this for 10 more years. Whereas the other, we were starting to be like, oh my goodness, this is 37 years of "Hi, I'm Luann from WindowWorks," right? And so
Yeah,
it's interesting, right?
yeah, and then your sort of natural tiredness that's associated with being kind of just over it. I don't want to keep doing this. That then affects your revenue, affects your
Yes.
bottom line. So then that's how you see businesses start to decline, because most of the time it's sometimes it's an industry thing where the industry itself is in decline, and then you would want to speed up your exit and get out as soon as possible. But a lot of times it's just the business owner runs out of steam,
He
and
gets
because the business
crotchety.
owner,
He
yeah,
gets crotchety.
and he's like, "I'm just gonna ride this out as long as I can." And I had
Until the
this is
townspeople all come and say, "Close your doors, you crotchety old coot."
yes, oh my gosh, yes. And actually, there was a guy that I know who he wasn't a client, but last summer He is third generation family business,
Mm.
and he just closed the doors, walked away, put the key in the lock one last time, and walked because he was burned out. He was tired.
Oh,
Now,
that's painful.
he didn't need to sell his business in order to retire. He could transition out, but he waited until he was
He had no gas
out
left
of
to
gas.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had a business with value. His business had
Mm,
value. And the sad thing is that he was the third generation
I
owner of
know.
this business. And, he could have, maybe his kids didn't want it, and that's fine, but he could have sold it. And if he would have started down that path before he got burned out, then maybe he wouldn't have had to walk away with nothing
It's
from
the
his
truth.
business.
I mean, that's like one of our featured sponsored is Cravat Inc. They've got the fifth generation in their business now. Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? It's amazing. And they're just great kids. I call them kids. They're in their 30s. They're grown-ups. But they're just great people, and they are just consistently, as a company and as a family, always grooming the next generation to come in and to lead and to take the helm. And they give them full responsibility for certain aspects and departments and so forth, so that they are able to see all the chess game of the full business. It's really remarkable. And the thing about it is I think that, Ashley, it might be a new concept for an interior designer listening to think that they could be a solopreneur, okay? They could be 15 or 20, 25 years in business. And of course, we've got the Laura Umanskis out there where they've got 14, 18, 20 people on their team. We've got Joni Vanderslice that has at J. Banks Design that has got 50 people on her team. I think when we have firms like this, I don't think it's as surprising to that business owner to think that there's something to sell because, let's be serious. That's a big firm, right? But I think our message, yours and mine, is that even if you are a principal designer, and maybe you have a project manager, and maybe you have an assistant designer, whatever title you place on that designer, senior designer, junior designer, whatever it is, a bookkeeper, and maybe you have an admin, that's a viable business to sell if you set it up to sell, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Right. Like you have to do what we did at Window Works. You have to take yourself out of that primary money driving role. You have to, make the plan for the switching of the gears on that, but it's possible to do. And you can still be involved and you can still oversee things. Like we're not going anywhere at Window Works, Vin and I. We're just making it so that we can walk in every day with smiles on our faces. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Instead of getting kicked out of town because we're so crotchety. I never forget when we first started our business, Ashley, it was 1982, and we went to our first showroom location. Before that, we were working out of my husband's basement. And we went to our first showroom location, and we didn't know it maybe Vin knew it because he had been in the same town that we bought that in for his whole life. He lived in that town. I didn't know it. I'm the one who scouted the location and found it. And I didn't realize that about maybe 2.5 blocks away was another window treatment company. And we knew it by the time we signed the lease and everything like that. But it was like, okay, whatever, because like I said, Vin and I are glass is half full. We can do anything. Let's conquer the world. Let's go do this. And we were young and it was like, whatever, competition, whatever. But the thing was that man at that point was probably about 55 or 60 years old, which I was quite sure he had 2 feet in the grave. I mean, he just seemed older than dirt to me. I really honestly did. But the thing was, we opened our showroom, and I'm going to tell you what, without question, at least once a week, we had a customer walk into our showroom who had no idea that we existed, but because he had been in business in town for probably 40 years at that point, they would have gone to see him, and he was, as you described, just so over it that if you asked him, by the time you asked the third question, he was like, you know what? Get out of here. You're driving me crazy. These are stupid questions. I don't want to answer them. And we had more people that would go pull away from his and then go, wait, That's another window treatment place right there. And they'd pull in and they literally walk through the front door and say, I had no idea you, after they talked to us 5-10 minutes and we were all happy and lovely and nice and excited to do their window treatments. And then they would say to us, I had no idea you were here. But when I went up to go to the place that I had used 10 years ago, and he saw such a miserable man at this point that I can't do business with him. And it really was. He was just, as you said, he was just over it. And he had done nothing to filter in anybody underneath him who was joyful and happy to be in business. And so that was a big lesson for us as well. And another reason why, we started to think about these things, and we were like, we don't want to get driven out of town.
Yeah.
We want our customers to like us until, like, I always think about the obituary, or like, thank God she's gone. The old wicked witch is dead. Or, revered business owner, many generations of families have gotten their window treatments, So anyway, so tell me, what are some of the things you said that you're going to ask us what our gross revenue is. You're going to ask us what we earn as an owner.
Yes. So it's actually pretty simple. So on the checklist, it has all 8 pieces of information, and then it explains how it's defined. Because like one of the pieces of information that you'll want to gather is your long-term EBITDA margin. And people are like, why are you speaking Greek to me?
Exactly. Why are you, Ashley? EBITDA? I've never heard that term.
Yeah, EBITDA is basically it's your company's profitability, your operating profitability as a percentage of total revenue. So it's a little calculation, and that actually is the most complex piece of information on the entire checklist. And you can still find it easily just by looking at your income statement and doing very simple math that you learned in 2nd grade. So it's revenue, pre-tax income, officer compensation, but it's basically what you pay yourself, but there are a few things that you kind of back out of there in order to get to that number. And then accounts receivable, accounts payable, whether or not you have any loans to the bank and what the amount outstanding is on all those loans, and then your long-term EBITDA margin, which we talked about, and then whether or not you rent or own the space that your business operates out of. So most of this information can be found in your financials. If you have a bookkeeper, hopefully they're keeping good financials. It's at your fingertips. Some of it, like if you're looking at last year's revenue, you can find that just on your tax return. It's right there. So all of this information is right at your fingertips, and all you have to do is just compile it. And then we make it very easy by providing the checklist. Once you have the checklist, you go to the valuation tool, which is listed right there on the checklist, and you enter the data, and it pops out in 5 minutes what the value is of your business.
Wow.
And
I love it. Now, here's the thing. I am aware of a couple of my listeners who have either asked me if I think that it's a good idea to buy someone else's interior design firm, or I'm actually personally aware of designers that are actively with the possibility and in the process of doing it, right? So it seems to me we could turn this on its head, right, Ashley? If I'm an interior designer and I'm considering buying another designer's business, I could gather this information from them, because I'm not going to buy anybody's business without getting this information to begin with. This list doesn't look like anything on here that I wouldn't expect to get as a prospective buyer, right? There's nothing proprietary here that you would say, I'm not telling you that, right?
Oh, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm just making sure. It seems like to me, if I'm going to buy a business, these are the things I need to know about that business. But so if I'm out there right now in real time thinking about buying somebody's business, I can put their numbers into this and see if their asking price is anywhere near in the realm of reality.
Exactly.
I love it.
You can use it both ways, because you don't have to be, you could just enter ABC company as the value, as the company name. You don't have to enter, all the specific metrics. So you could do it sort of, in stealth mode. You don't have to enter the actual name of the business when you go in there to do it. So, yes, it can be used for that. So, it's, most service businesses, are kind of similar in that regard, where, There might be rule of thumbs. Like, for example, in my industry, a good rule of thumb is you could sell your business for about 2.5 times revenue. And so, a lot of people will use that as a rule of thumb, but when you dig deeper and you find that if 80% of the clients are 80 years old and up, well, no, that's a huge discount. Or if, most of the revenue is not recurring, if it's more of like a commission or sales based thing where you don't know where your money's coming in from every month, that can then decrease the value. So there's a rule of thumbs are only valuable just to get a surface level idea of what the business is worth, but you do really have to dig in deep and figure out what is going on in this business, what are the unique elements of this business, and what is the business actually worth, and what am I willing to pay for this business? Because it's like anything else. You don't want to overpay for your house. You don't want to overpay for, a stock that you might buy or, another investment. And a business is no different. It is an investment. So
Yeah. And how do you address that question? So, for instance, when you said a few moments ago, and how many clients is this business potentially going to lose when the original principal is gone? So, for instance, in my example, 7 years ago, somebody could have looked at us and said, well, if Lou and Vin aren't selling, who knows? Maybe 70% of these people or 50% of these people won't come back because you're not here. Now we've taken care of that. Okay, so now we have introduced our entire client base to these 3 new amazing rock stars. But when you are looking at a single principal model with maybe a staff of 3 to 5, and you are the other designer considering buying this, how do you evaluate how many clients will possibly not return when that original principal? Is it the same way that principal has to demonstrate that their senior is the lead on 60 or 70% of the projects, or their senior is the one who is literally filling the pipeline? Like, how do you do that?
Well, a lot of it comes down to how the contract is written and what you're signing. And you were talking earlier about you get X at the sale, but then there's this income stream, and a lot of times there'll be covenants or things written into the contract where if the clientele does not stick around, then the buyer is protected on the back end because you may not get the full value. Probably a lot of business owners aren't going to get the full value at the time of sale unless you have a very attractive business. So the way that a lot of buyers will protect themselves is to say, okay, well, you get X percent now, and then you get X percent, if the business reaches a certain metric, or these number of clients stick around or something after this period of time.
Okay. So it's completely reasonable to think that there are and should be some sort of language that includes safeguards like that.
And yeah, and there should be. And I see a lot of times, both on the seller side and on the buyer side, that it's a lot of business owners, they're penny wise and pound foolish. They do need a team of experts. And that's not just like someone who's like me, who's the exit planner, but a CPA, an attorney. If you're, a lot of times, you'll want, if you're on the sell side, you definitely want a business broker or a deal attorney, depending on how big the business is. And so you can assume, whether you're a buyer or a seller, that the person on the other side of that transaction is going to have an army team behind them, a team of experts. And if you are not coming to the table with those same people, yes, you will have to pay those people. But if you want to make sure that everything is in there and you're not going to get screwed, whether you're the buyer or the seller, because especially on this, it works both ways, but on the sell side, sometimes, you might sign something that the buyer put in all these, if this happens, then this, if this happens, then this. And so if everything doesn't go smoothly, you may think that you're getting 3 million, but what you actually leave with is $1 million because you signed on the dotted line and agreed to all these things that you shouldn't have agreed to. And if you had someone, if you had the right people advising you, and a lot of times that at $1 minimum, that team is your attorney, and not just, a generalist attorney, but your attorney who has experienced in deals and knows how to negotiate on your behalf and can help you with making sure that the way the contract is written isn't exposing you. And then a CPA to help with the tax side of things is obviously very important. And then the exit planner who's kind of guiding the entire mission,
Yeah.
the pilot. So, yeah, that's key, is really having a team of experts and realizing that, yes, you will pay for that, but the value that you will get either in a reduced business value on the buy side or a maximized value on the sell side is going to be well worth what you pay those experts.
Right. It's so true. What's so funny is an interior designer completely and 100% can understand that a homeowner can go into a big box store, work with the employee of the week, and design a kitchen and a bathroom. Okay? We could do it. It's possible. It could happen. But the interior designer knows many things about that process. They know that there's going to be mistakes made. They know that the end product isn't going to be aesthetically as pretty as it could be, and the process is possibly going to be extremely painful, right? And they say easily, if you hire me to guide you through this, I can see the pitfalls ahead. I can see the mistake that is so common in when you build a kitchen that I made that mistake 15 times 20 years ago. I don't make it anymore. But we understand why an interior designer actually helps a homeowner to save money when they use their services for particularly a complicated build out process. And you're saying the same thing. It's, you can, sit there with your attorney who really does family law, and you can sit there with your CPA that you've had 2 conversations with in 10 years and really doesn't know anything about your business. And you cannot have a conversation with an exit strategist and not really know what the end goal you're trying to get out of this is. But it's probably not going to be as good a deal as it would be, just like the kitchen wouldn't be as good as it could be if it was professionally done, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, all the time, we're all tempted to do things on our own. Like, oh, I see this on Pinterest. I can do it.
Good luck.
But, you're better off hiring an expert. Right. And, it's interesting because there are things that we only do occasionally, but there's someone out there, an interior designer, they do this every
day,
every single day. And so, and when it comes to exiting your business, most people, now there are serial entrepreneurs out there who will start a business, grow it, sell it, and do that like 12 times. But most people out there, they're only going to exit their business once. Nobody gets good at it. Nobody.
It's a great line. That's a great line. Nobody gets good at it. You don't have a chance to get good at it, right?
Yeah. So it's very important to hire experts, and it also, it all starts with knowing what your business is worth. And I would just really emphasize that, because I find that it really is the key to getting unlocked. And at some point along the way, depending on who you're going to sell your business to and what the exit path looks like, you may need to get a certified valuation where you pay a valuation expert, $10,000, and it takes 4 to 6 weeks to value your business. But at that time, that may be further down the road, and for tax purposes, or a lot of times if you're trying to transfer, especially to a family member, and you have to have you're trying to do it at a low valuation, which is a whole other can of worms. For tax purposes, usually you have to be able to defend that value, and so you need a valuation done.
Oh, because you just can't sell it to your kid for $1.
Exactly. Yeah. The government has picked up on that, and so
didn't know that you couldn't do that anymore.
So, like in that circumstance, it's called lowest defensible value. So you
Oh,
would try to transition your business for a low value, which is opposite if you were trying to sell, obviously, to like a third party. But
right.
there are other ways to extract value from it. So maybe you get certain payments over the long term, or maybe you set up like a non-qualified deferred comp plan or some other compensation so that you do get what the business is worth, but your son or daughter or niece or nephew, whoever's buying the business, they don't have, let's say they don't have $1 million to pay you, and you don't want them to pay you that much for the business. There are ways to get what the business is worth without putting undue stress
Mm.
on the buyers or on the business itself.
Mm. Yeah, that is a big part of the equation, is that the person buying your business has to be able to be successful, especially if you are taking payouts on it, whether it's from a family member or a stranger. I think what I'm really trying to get across, Ashley, is just because it's not an ExxonMobil company, you can't assume that you don't have something to sell. I think that's really what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah, and it's interesting. When I came into this, I thought that business owners would maybe inflate the value of their business. Like, they've been doing it so long, they maybe think their business is worth 5 million and it's only worth 500,000. But actually, I find that the opposite is true. A lot of people are not really confident or not sure that they have even something to sell.
Mm.
And so I would explore every avenue before you just sort of dismissed it and said, "Well, I don't think my business is sellable
Right.
or
Right.
transferable. It's just going to die when I exit, when I retire, or when I die. Maybe they'll just work until and die in their chair, and then
Just
that'll
look at
be
the
it."
memos in my hand.
Yeah. But it's really it's interesting. What you talked about, I think, is really important because too often business owners don't have those conversations with the person or the people that maybe they've identified that they think are best suited to take over the ownership after
Mm.
they exit. Because you may have that conversation with someone. First of all, if that's what that successor owner wants, that's going to be highly motivated because
Right.
everybody wants a career track. Everybody wants to know that they're going somewhere in this company, in this
And
business.
then it matters what they do every day.
Yes, and they can see the future, and that they'll be less likely to exit. And of course, you want to protect yourself and protect the business against them leaving and competing against you and taking all of your clients. But they're more likely to stay if they know that there's this future here, that you're dangling this carrot in front of them, that there's this valuable business that they're going to be able to run and own at some point.
Right.
And but by having that conversation, you may go on the assumption for years that this person that you're grooming wants to own the business. But in reality, and you probably know this, Luann, entrepreneurs are a funny breed of people. And there are a lot of people out there who are perfectly happy being employees.
Yep.
And as much as we glorify entrepreneurship in our culture, they do not want to be owners because they see the stress level of the owner.
They leave you at 6 o'clock, and when they come back at 8 the next day, you're at your desk still. What's that? Crazy
Yeah,
pants.
yeah, you slept there the night before. Yeah. So
I'm not
there are a lot of
understanding.
people who, and that is a big danger, particularly in family businesses where, you just kind of assume that the next generation is capable and willing and wants to be there, and oftentimes they don't.
Right.
So it is
Right.
important to have those conversations early on and make sure that the person that you think is best suited to take over truly wants that, or the people. I mean, it could very well be multiple people who you want to transition to.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I don't know if you get into it so much since you are a more skewed to the finances, but I wonder if you do, because my cousin Eileen, when she does counseling for exit counseling, strategy planning for exit strategies and for companies and so forth, when the owner starts to identify who they think would be, or people start to put their hand up, when she works with companies, she has everybody do the predictive index, because to your point, not every personality is suited for entrepreneurship. And most of the people who are not suited self-select themselves out of it. But then there are others that think it's a heck of a lot easier than it is, and don't you worry about it, I got it. But, your personality profile might not really show that you have the innate skills and talents and traits, not skills, but traits, in order to, you cannot be a risk-averse person and expect to be a highly successful entrepreneur. I mean, there's just certain things that are, you want safety, you go get a job for somebody. And even then, you're not completely safe, but you're safer.
Right.
Because when an entrepreneur loses his job, a lot of times he loses his job, his business, his house, his car. It's not just the job, right? Like when it goes belly up, it all goes flopping, right? And that's what we live with as business owners, that understanding that it's all on the line, not just the paycheck. And so for an employee, it's the paycheck that's on the line, so not everybody's suited for it, and that's just the simple fact of it. And thank God, because we wouldn't have anybody to work for us if everybody was entrepreneurial. We need those people. So I know I need them. I love them. So anyway, so this is amazing. And so here's the thing. The first step, if you're interested, just to play around a little bit and just kind of see what your little business looks like there, you're going to go to TrueNorthRA.com. TrueNorthRA.com/value my business. Okay. TrueNorthRA.com/value my business. It'll be in the show notes as well. I just want to say I had an episode back number 302 with the Meadowbank team in Pennsylvania. And these are two interior designers that worked for a principal designer, and they successfully bought her business and have continued to have it grow and flourish. And that whole conversation on episode 302 revolved around that. They had a big aha lesson when the tax man came. So you got to listen to that lesson, and that's why you have to make sure all the T's and I's are dotted and crossed. And they did have all those things, but it just got by everybody. And it was a big deal. And so I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag completely, but, they're remarkable women. And I've come since to know them and like them. They were at Luann Live, and it's a great show. So it's sort of tandem with this show a little bit from another perspective. But Ashley, I thank you so much for joining us today on the show. And I always say to all of my friends listening that they have to do something each day to make their business a little bit better, to make themselves a better business person, to understand all the nuances and the layers of the responsibilities that we have as business people to run our business profitably. And this is one more step in it. And I think it's an easy thing to do this valuation and just see for yourself where you sit in this metric. And maybe one of the most eye-opening thing might be, there might be some criteria that we mentioned, your revenue or your payment plan, or your accounts receivable, accounts payable. There might be something there that you have been remiss in even paying attention to. And because the test will ask you this, then you'll go find it, and maybe that'll be an eye-opening experience. So, I thank you for your time today, Ashley. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Luann. This was a lot of fun. And I just appreciate the opportunity. It's always fun to spend time with entrepreneurs and then people like you who really get this and take it seriously. So I wish you and your audience a lot of success.
Big thank you to Article.com for sponsoring our podcast. Have you looked at Article yet? They have a fantastic collection of Scandinavian-inspired mid-century furniture with an easy-as-pie process for ordering, delivering, and returning when you need it. And along with this, they have the incredible team that leads the To The Trade division, which is led by interior designers just like you. And of course, we all know what a tremendous asset that is for you during the process of working with them. So open your trade account today at welldesigned.article.com. All right. Now, as far as this show, I hope you can see the value in thinking about how your business will or could go on after you, right? Maybe it could be sold when you're ready. It's our life's work as business owners. And maybe you will choose to close your doors, to simply just have a last day and say goodbye. But if you choose it, you see, I'm okay with it. But if it just happens because you don't know the difference, you don't know any better, you didn't plan for it, then I'm not okay with that. So I want to say to you, what if with some planning and preparation now, all these years in advance, that you could design your business so it could be sold, right? And get a nice little reward for all those years of hard work. I'm just saying, right? Now, understand something. When you design a home for a client, any space for that matter, you map it out, don't you? You don't just, start putting anything in there and wonder how is it going to end up and wonder if it's going to look good. No, you think about all the possible things ahead of time, the traffic patterns, the light, the sustainability, the decor, the aesthetic, all of that, right? So what if you did that now? What if you thought about succession planning way before it's time? What if you started thinking about, would you sell the business and what would that look like if you prepared for it, right? You might get a huge benefit out of it. And how about the benefit of all the people in your life that have, missed you at dinner a few gabillion times along the way? What if you could sell the business and have a reward for all of you? All right. So just give it some thought. And during the program, I did a shout out to my IDS friends in Portland, Oregon. And I want to remind you that I will be there in Portland on Friday, November 1st, 2019, this is, at their Elevate conference. My friend Nancy Gansenhofer is going to be speaking there too. So the event is open to all industry professionals, not just Interior Design Society members. Although if you're not an IDS member, it just begs the question, doesn't it? The RSVP will be in the show notes for this episode. And you can always see where I'm going to be at what events at luannniagara.com. You click on events and coaching and then click on attend a live event. Okay. Attend a live event, not an alive event. Anyway, and you know what? A reminder just around the corner in real time, if you're listening to this, is the Stanford Waterside Design District event. This is October 10th, 2019. Awesome full day event plan, co-sponsored by the Stanford Waterside Design District and Aspire Design and Home. Okay, again, the RSVP for this will be in the show notes and also on my website. All righty, that is it for today. I want you to do your future self a favor and every day run your business with the systems and processes that will ensure that it can and will be a valuable asset to sell or pass on to your family someday. All right? Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.